Hello everyone, I'm NETBET and this is Blue Lines TV. Today's video is brought to you by NETBET, who are partnering with me to give you guys an exclusive sign-up offer. This offer is going to be in place for our game against Kiev in the Europa League, but bear with me just 1 second because I'm going to touch on that later on. Who are NETBET, you ask? They're a leading sports and casino betting platform, and they were founded in 2001 and have held their license in Europe since 2006. Now for our game against Spurs, I'm going to be upping the ante a tiny bit because sometimes, I want to feel a bit more pressure when it comes to these high profile games. And for me, as long as you bet responsibly and you manage what you spend, it can help my investment factor in games even more. As you can see on the screen, I've placed 3 bets. I've gone for us to score more than 1.5 goals against Spurs. I've gone for Eden Hazard to score anytime. And for the final bet, I've gone for us to win the game at full time. Now, if you sign up to NETBET in the link in the description below, you'll get access to an exclusive only offer. There's 2 ways to access this. Type in my name, Blue Lines, at the start when it comes to registration, or just do it yourself manually. Now, getting on to NETBET's exclusive offer to Blue Line subscribers. Get the new customer offer of 40-1 odds for us to beat Dynamo Kiev in the Europa League. To get this offer, it's fairly simple. Either click on the landing page, or as you're registering, simply type in Blue Lines. But remember, to actually receive this offer, you must deposit a single bet, as you can see on the screen. As I said, remember to place a single bet offer first to receive this offer. And as I said, you guys, in the link in the description below is going to be a link for this offer. Anyway, getting straight into the match preview, starting with the press conference review. It was quite interesting, I can't lie. Of course, SARRI was questioned in regards to Emerson and Marcos Alonso, and SARRI basically said that Emerson is playing better now. Alonso's form hasn't been great. I'm going to be sticking with Emerson for now. He still thinks that Alonso could be one of the best left backs in the world, but in my opinion, and come on, let's be serious, when you're a manager, you have to manage the players as well, it's part of the job. So obviously, you're going to try and gas up Marcos Alonso. You're going to try and encourage him and motivate him to try and strive for better performances. Of course, he was asked about the Kepa incident, and I feel like this has been an incident that's been, I think it's been over-reported in my opinion. It's been over-reported way too much. I've seen this story everywhere. People are looking for new information. There's no real new context to things. Everything has been sorted out now. And SARRI was basically saying that, yes, me and Kepa came to an agreement, everything's sorted now, but Kepa does understand that because of how he did act, there's a possibility that he might not play in the game. But with how SARRI was phrasing it, he's basically saying there aren't going to be any, grudges after the game because Kepa's accepted that he did do something wrong in that game against Man City. So that makes a lot of sense. And SARRI was basically alluding to the point that, and you'll be hearing about my thoughts in the 5 talking points video later today, but he was basically saying that the Caballero decision was more tactical than anything else, and a part of me feels like Kepa knew that, and in the moment he tried to pretend that he wasn't aware. He tried to pretend and hide by the fact that he thought that he was getting subbed off, obviously having that injury in the game. But it's just too much common sense as to why SARRI would look to Caballero. Number 1, he's been at Man City. Number 2, how many times do you think they've done practice penalty shootouts and training sessions? He probably has that instinct in regards to, where players are going to aim for the ball. So I don't know, Kepa, I don't know. SARRI said as well that he was happy with how Azpilicueta handled things. We know that Aspi did nothing, so again, it's SARRI just trying to be the good guy, trying to keep the camp together, taking responsibility for other people's mistakes, and I think that's a great sign of a manager. He doesn't look to stick it on players in the press conference or anything like that. He could easily do that, especially in a situation. He could easily, push the attention away from himself like Mourinho would do, and blame it on the players. And let's be serious, if SARRI used that cliche tactic, he'd be gaining a lot more support right now. But SARRI's a guy that likes to do things the right way. He's got integrity, he's got principles, and that's something I respect in our manager. Now, moving on to the predicted lineup part for today's video, and it's going to be pretty interesting. Of course, that this could potentially be SARRI's game if we don't get the outcome we want in the match tomorrow. So I'm going for a bit of an ambitious lineup, but after how he performed against Man City and after seeing the selection and the players that SARRI subbed on, I'm thinking if now is a time to, market your system, let the board and everyone know why you're the right manager for the job and why SARRI ball is going to help take Chelsea to another level, you have to reflect that in the match lineup. And for those reasons, I have to see Hazard, Higuain, and Callum Hudson-Odoi. In midfield, I need to see Kante, Ruben and Jorginho. In defence, I need to see Emerson, which is going to be quite obvious now. Luiz, Rudiger and Aspie. And Kepa, maybe he might be in goal, maybe he won't. Caballero might be a decent replacement for one game, so I don't think we'd be too weak. But a part of me still feels like maybe Kepa is going to play tomorrow. And I hope that if you do play tomorrow, Kepa, you should really appreciate that you've got a very, very nice manager. As I keep saying, this is the only lineup we can see for Sarri to really be able to demonstrate what his methods are about. You know why? Because the players in this lineup have that execution behind them. I want to see a left-hand side of Ruben, Emerson and Hazard play for an entire 90 minutes or close to 90 minutes. I need to see that against Spurs. What better test than that? Now, moving on to our opponents, Tottenham. We are going to be playing them at home. It's going to be a massive game tomorrow, you guys. A huge game. There's some massive implications at the end. But how exactly are Spurs going to turn up to face us? Just to give some context in regards to Tottenham, the next 10 days is going to be massive for them. You know, they're playing us, they're playing Arsenal, and they're playing Dortmund. That's a lot of high-profile games where they don't really have enough time to really have, you know, spaces to rest in between and work on different tactical ideas. And I feel like this is where we could have that advantage against it. But let's try and understand how Tottenham are going to face against us. Now, over the past 2 games, they have been using a 3-5-2 with guys like Aurier playing as a wing back. It's been used to quite decent effect. Of course, they beat Dortmund 3-0. They unfortunately lost 2-1 against Burnley. And I feel like when they play us tomorrow, they're going to continue to use their diamond system against us. But if they're leading the game, they are going to revert back to a 3-5-2. So we've played Spurs 3 times now. They've done it every single time. I don't think it's going to be any different now. But I'm going to explain how they've been able to cause us some issues. Now, of course, I've spoken about this so many times, but let me give everyone a nice refresher in regards to why Tottenham have been so effective against us recently. Now, one of the main advantages for using a diamond system and using mid-block tactics as well is the fact that you're trying to stop us from playing our normal passing game out from the back. Now, when it comes to our build-up play out from the back, I think we're up there with some of the best in Europe. That's how effective we are. You know, I saw that game against Man City. They're one of the best pressing teams, and we regularly beat their first phase of pressing every single time. And it just really shows you that, you know, we've got some of the foundations of Sarri ball in this team. By Spurs using that diamond midfield system, what they're trying to do is close some of the passing lanes. They're trying to keep their shape very compact, meaning that the distances between the players isn't going to be very far. What we normally tend to see is that defensive line really push very high up to be close to their midfield, because it does make it easy for them to create those overloads in areas. And basically the overloads they're trying to create is to have that numerical advantage against us in different areas of the pitch to win possession of the ball back so they can hit their counter-attacks. One of the advantages of really parking the bus in the middle of the pitch, in a sense, is the fact that you force us to have to play passes out wide. And by doing that, when we had guys like Aspie and Alonso and inconsistent guys like Willian and Pedro, that was one of our biggest weaknesses, because we were more susceptible to losing possession of the ball, and that's where teams win it and they launch their quick counter-attacks. Now, I can get into even more detail in regards to that counter-attacking patterns that Spurs use to try and exploit us, to try and get in behind. But to keep things very brief and layman, what Spurs tend to do is to play direct passes in the spaces behind our fullbacks, and obviously Spurs players will make curve runs in those areas or make runs out wide. And the reason as to why they're doing that is because they want to stretch our defensive line and force players out of position. And one more quick detail to realize is, you know, this game plan is even more effective if we're struggling to play out from the back. And what I mean by that is, well, of course, if we can't find the passing options because the passing lanes are closed, what tends to happen is the players will try and spread out a bit to try and obviously find more space to receive the ball in. But this is where things become more risky and dangerous, because if you're in an area where players are susceptible to losing the ball already and the players are further away from each other, whenever you lose the ball, counter-attacks become even more threatening. But that's the thing, you guys, you can't have it both ways. The only way to actually get past that is to actually keep the ball and play good football, because if you beat that press, you can attack the spaces in behind, and Spurs can be very susceptible, to being countered down their flanks. So that's going to be Tottenham's counter-attacking plan for the game tomorrow. One more thing we need to be wary of, though, is the fact that this team have a strong aerial presence, and is it really a surprise that we always concede goals from headers to Tottenham every single time? it's really not. I mean, for God's sake, Lorenz even scored one against us, and he was pretty poor in that game. So, unfortunately, Spurs will just have that advantage because they're stronger, they're fitter, they're bigger, they're better play, more direct compared to us. And this leads on very nicely to how we can beat Tottenham for tomorrow. This is where having good players makes a big difference, because if we reduce and limit the amount of counter-attacks we give away, prevention, you guys, if we prevent that from happening, then we'll have a big advantage in the game. And I think that if SARRI uses the right personnel on the team now, because I don't even think it comes down to tactical issues for the reasons as to why we've been so poor recently. It's come down to teams exploiting some of our weaker players because they know that some of these guys just can't really play this style of football well. I think that game against Man City was a perfect test in regards to this, because they were constantly pressing us high with a lot of men too. But we had that composure. We beat their first phase of press every single time. We switched the ball from left to right, and we managed to create attacks from there. And I think that's just a great sign of SARRI's methods working, as well as showing what, if you use some of these key personnel on the team, this is how they can help the team even more. And I think that Emerson was really testament to that. I mean, his link-up play with the wide players, helping us transition from moving the ball in our half to the opposition's half. He was really good at that aspect. And I think that, if SARRI uses the right players, it's going to give Spurs even more questions, because they won't be preparing for how to stop a Hudson-Odoi or a Ruben or an Emerson. 3 players that are very press resistant, as I said before. And that's the key thing, you guys. If we beat that first phase of press, we can really get at Spurs. Let's not forget, they're a team that's using a diamond. Their width comes from players making runs out wide, or from their fullbacks pushing higher up to move alongside the midfield. And this is why they've been so effective against us recently, because they do have that numerical advantage against us in midfield. I mean, think about it like this: their 4 midfield players plus their 2 fullbacks make 6 in midfield, compared to our 5, which is our 2 fullbacks plus our 3 central midfield players as well. So if we can force Spurs' fullbacks back, so they can't create those overloads and outman us in midfield, then we can start to take the game to them and start to affect them. And I think that with the right lineup, of course, that we can actually do this against Tottenham. We've been really poor when it comes to our build-up play from the flanks, but as we've seen in the past 2 games now, with just using the right fullbacks and some of the right players, makes a massive difference to how this system can be executed. Anyway, you guys, moving on to my score prediction, and it's going to be quite hard actually, because we have to remember one thing: luck and SARRI is kind of like water and oil. It just don't go together very well. I think that's one thing that SARRI's really been missing out on quite a lot. Can I see fortune favouring him tomorrow? I'm not too sure, to be honest, but I think that as long as we don't lose this game, if we drew the game, which I think is going to be the outcome, I think that as long as the performance is on point and the board get a lot of promise like they got from the Man City game, I think that SARRI will get the time he needs. And I think that, to be honest, that's what he should be getting regardless. My score prediction for tomorrow is going to be 2-2. Anyway, you guys, that's going to bring an end for today's match preview. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm NETBET. This is Blue Lions TV. I'll see you guys later for the 5 talking points video.